Oh, and the hits just keep on coming. Your boy Ego is back with some news. I mean, for me, it's expected news, but for some of you, it might be, I guess, what you could call bad news. Martin Bakole, heavyweight. It is over. Ineligible for the IBF Eliminator. So that title shot that he was climbing to just got a bit harder. Man, oh man. Now, let me start with this quick PSA and then I'll jump into the news. So stay tuned to the end of this video. I do my job and I'm damn good. One thing I do not take kindly to or tolerate is for a hater or a naysayer to say I'm not doing a amazing job in this sport of boxing, and then their argument is full of lies, inconsistency, or like mistruths, right? I don't respond well to that. I put information on my channel and on my pages that I truly believe, but it comes with the territory. You're going to have people who disagree with you. And the disagreement would be fine if they had more experience than me, if they knew what they were talking about. So I distinctly remember in this Martin Bakole situation telling you guys. Now, save that because I want to get through the news and then we'll talk about it. Make sure you guys follow me at Boxing Ego 1. But I had to start off with that. At Boxing Ego 1, the link is in the description. So first, I think it's better for me to just tell you what's going on. Martin Bakole is now ineligible for the May fight against Efe Ajagba, which was going to be an IBF eliminator. But because he chose and his team chose and Turkey chose him to fight Joseph Parker, a former champion, and he got blasted for it with no camp, last minute, late terms, that loss has now cost him, and as I predicted, it's over for that eliminator talk, right? And I think I worded it really good, so I'm just going to read it verbatim. I said, laughing my ass off, just like I told you, idiots. Remember you were saying, oh, Ego, you were wrong. This is a great opportunity for Martin Bakole. So a non-title fight with no camp on a day's notice against a top guy who plays spoiler and is a former champion like Joseph Parker, flying in the same day to Riyadh to take a fight because it was last minute. You guys said this was a great idea, right? Now Martin Bakole is ineligible to fight Efe Ajagba in the IBF Eliminator in May. It was supposed to be on the Ryan Garcia versus Rolly, Devin Haney card. They advertised it publicly, which is another problem that I'll get to, as a triple header, right? But that does not look to be the case because it got TKO. And I told y'all this was a dumb idea from the start. But you guys told me that Turkey Al-Sheikh saved the card. He's saving boxing. And it turned out both of the last minute late replacements got bodied. They got cooked. They got knocked out. Shakur knocked out Padlock, and Joseph Parker in 2 rounds knocked out Bakole, which to me is no coincidence. For me, if Padlock, from what I've seen, if he had a full camp, I think he would at least go 12 rounds with Shakur, because he told you, he said, I didn't feel the headshots at all. Like, his power didn't bother me until he went to the body, because I didn't train. I had no core exercise. I had no mileage in. I didn't take a training camp and prepare for this. So, of course, I was getting winded when I was getting hit to the body. I mean, you're off the couch, right? But you guys assured me that Turkey had a plan. This is exactly why you don't do these Hail Mary saves in boxing, because it messes up people's career trajectories. And for what? Some quick cash? You'll get that money in the long route if you do what's right and don't take shortcuts. Don't let money rule you. Money is just a tool. It comes, it goes. I personally have got money and then lost a lot of money, right? But I always found my way back to the money because Boxing Ego is a natural born hustler. For me, this was a bad look for all involved, including, but not limited to, Turkey, Bakole's team, and his advisors for even letting him take on this fight on such short notice. The better solution is to have fail-safes in place and a plan so you have guys in the same weight class who are on the card, or at least on standby and ready and training, and you can, say, hey, watch the fight from the crowd if we don't need you, but be in shape and be ready to go and hit this scale because we might need you, standby, right? Just like an airplane. If you go to take a regular commercial flight or whatever, Delta, and you have a buddy pass and then the plane's full, you can't use the buddy pass and get on ahead of people who have actually paid for a ticket, right? If you have a Southwest buddy pass or whatever, right? So they'll put you on standby, meaning the next availability to that destination, to LA or whatever, that they can fit you in and accommodate you, then you can get on that. That's what standby is. So you need to have standby fighters for a card that's supposed to be big in the event like this, something happens. Schofield is sick. Dubois is sick last minute. And now you're not caught with your pants down. Not fly someone around the country on late terms trying to save the card and protect your pride and ego. Sucks for Bakole, but he is out the eliminator, which if he beat Efe Ajagba, which I would have personally favored him to do, he would have been the mandatory for Daniel Dubois and his belt. Now, the L's just keep on coming. Now I'm about to cook. I went through what's going on. Dan Rayfield reported it. Again, news. After getting knocked out by Joseph Parker on Saturday, Martin Bakole is ineligible for a May 2nd IBF heavyweight title eliminator that was set for Efe Ajagba. Quote, Bakole is out of the eliminator. An IBF spokesperson said, we will move on to the next leading available contender. Got him. I got to be the best in the business. While you guys were sitting up here glazing and saying I was wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about. This is what I warned you of, right? People were like, it was rather shocking to me because I knew that this was on the cards. If Bakole didn't win, he was losing his spot. I told you that. And guess what? Surprise, the guy that had no camp, no time to prepare, no time to train, he weighed 315, 330 or whatever he was weighing, wasn't in fight shape. He got blasted, and now he's out of an eliminator. Do you understand how bad this is for Bakole? All of that bouncing back he has done from Michael Hunter to the Jared Anderson fight, where he started to impress, and especially in that Jared Big Baby Anderson, because Tyson Fury even vouched for him. So when he beat Anderson on the Crawford Madrimov card, people said, whoa, who is this guy? He hadn't really been fighting in America. He's big, and he was snapping the head back of Jared Anderson. So people are like, man, who is this guy, right? So I'm sure he gained new fans from this performance, right? All that out the window, which is exactly what I told you. And the reason I'm saying out the window is because, first of all, the heavyweight division has a lot of movement, but there's only two champions, Daniel Dubois and Usyk. Now they're talking about Usyk just called out Daniel Dubois. He just pulled out. So Daniel Dubois still retained his IBF belt. Usyk called him out for a rematch. So how is Martin Bakole going to get Daniel Dubois or Usyk when they might fight each other, right? when you get beat soundly and knocked out, it changes things, knocks you down the rankings, knocks you down the ladder, right? So all this effort from Bakole to me was squandered because you cashed him out and offered him a bunch of money for one fight or whatever. I don't even know if it's a bunch of money, but whatever you offered him to have him fill in. And then now Joseph Parker, he'll probably get a title shot before Bakole, or another big fight. Now, I know Turkey said, oh, we'll bring Bakole back, but who cares now? You know what I'm saying? Like, the fighter's dream is to become a champion, I would imagine. And now with these scenes, it stripped away, it did so much damage. And this is exactly what I told you about before he lost. Bakole was considered a boogeyman of the division. With scenes like this, these other heavyweights are going to be like, okay, he's beatable. It's not going to look the same. It's not going to hit the same, right? He got wasted in 2 rounds. And then you messed up his opportunity as an IBF eliminator. Because if he would have fought Efe Ajagba, me personally, if the Parker fight never happened, coming off the Anderson fight and getting a full camp in, I would have picked him to beat Efe Ajagba personally. So I think he has a strong chance there, right? And I know I've seen other comments on my video announcing the fight. You ain't never heard me say nothing bad about Bakole Efe Ajagba. I thought it was a good fight, 2 big men, 2 guys with power, but I would favor Bakole with the proper camp, right? Now you get knocked out, Efe gets to move on and fight whoever else the IBF tells you. They've already ruled on it. Bakole is out. So Turkey, you guys don't see, this is layered. This is multiple mistakes happening concurrently and consecutively. So I've already expressed this. Ring is now owned by Turkey. They have a bad habit of forecasting and foreshadowing their next move, meaning let's advertise and put in print what we hope and plan to do. In boxing, this is bad. Things change, dynamics change. You don't get the proper clearances. Someone can't get a visa. So when you put all your plans out there for the world to see and judge, then one, it takes away the anticipation, because we heard for a while that this and this is going to happen. So when it happens, there's no shock value because we heard about it way before it actually came into fruition. So I really don't like anybody that does that in boxing. PBC never does that. They don't say, oh, we want Gervonta Davis to fight this guy and this guy in 2026. They say, let Tank get past Lamont Roach, and then we'll talk about anything else. That is ideal. That is the gold standard. But for whatever reason, Turkey, he's the money man. He wants to run his companies like he wants. But for me, as a boxing reporter and fan, this is a grave mistake. For example, you say, oh, Teofimo in Alcatraz. But I was hearing they might put Teo on the Devin Haney card. So if there's things like that that aren't all the way firm, then why'd you tell us about Alcatraz? What is the point? They've already had Teo's name linked to Jaron Ennis and Matias and Hitchens. When you do that, you're only setting yourself up and the fans up for disappointment if you cannot produce what you said. Another example of this would be, you told us, Turkey told the boxing world, Ryan's fighting Rolly. It was supposed to be Pitbull. So again, you see how my complaint is valid. You told us Ryan was fighting Pitbull. People got hyped for that. And they said, you know what? We're moving on to Rolly. Okay, so there's a switch there. Now there's another one. You said Ryan Pitbull, which turned out to be Ryan Rolly. You said Devin versus Ramirez. That stayed intact. But then the third fight on this New York City Times Square triple header that you advertised, and I could show you the video, you said Efe Ajagba was fighting Martin Bakole. Boxing fans heard this triple header and people started giving Turkey credit. oh man, this is amazing. How is Turkey doing it? He's saving boxing. But now things changed. You called Bakole in on late terms and he got knocked out. So now he's ineligible per the IBF rules, which Boxing Ego told you would be the case. So you can't, the fight you advertise with Efe and Bakole is not going to happen now, right? So this was a very, very foolish plan. Look at, he's wearing DDD gloves. DDD is the acronym for Daniel Dubois and his nickname, Daniel Dynamite Dubois, right? They flew this man out at the last minute, which I told you was problematic. And you guys were so, yeah, this is a great fight. It's going to be great. They didn't even have gloves for him. He had to wear Daniel Dubois, who was sick, his gloves. So again, this is why you don't do this in boxing, because imagine a guy who is a good fighter like Bakole, and he don't even get to wear his preferred gloves. I know it doesn't seem like nothing big, but imagine Michael Jordan is in a championship playoff game and his regular shoes that he wants to wear, maybe they're his good luck shoes, or he just feels comfortable on the court in these shoes. And let's say something happened and his shoes got removed. He might have a bad game because he got to wear Scottie Pippen shoes and there's too much room in Scottie Pippen shoes and it don't feel the same, or it's a different brand, or it's not broken in, whatever the case is. We're talking about sports, people. And I know athletes personally, and there's a lot of athletes that have random like superstitions, if you will, and certain things like, man, I got to have this mouthpiece because I have to have a custom fit, not those little mouthpieces you get from Dick's Sporting Goods or Big Five and you boil it. You know what I mean? Like the mouthpiece is slipping. So I know people like athletes in general, but also fighters that are very specific about every little thing. Like, see, I spend time, I don't know if Turkey spends a lot of time in boxing gyms, but I have in my career, right? So I swear to you, these fighters are like, these gloves feel weird. I can't wear these. I'm not going to be at my best. You know what I'm saying? And it could be something that seems little, like, man, gloves are gloves are gloves. No, some people don't want certain gloves. Like, they'll break their hands if they wear these gloves. There's just a lot of nuanced things. So you didn't even have gloves for the man, and he had to wear Daniel Dubois' gloves. I'm not saying that changed the fight because, again, there was multiple mistakes, like no camp. That was probably the biggest thing of not having a proper training camp. You know what I mean? You can't treat these fighters like herd of cattle or toys or something. These are real fighters with real careers. You know what I mean? So the biggest thing, I'm not saying the gloves alone was why he lost to Parker, but if you're trying to give someone the best fighting chance, you would want them comfortable. You want like people keep saying Turkey's giving us the fights that we want and it's the best versus the best. But you can't tell me that Martin Bakole, 315 pounds, more than he's weighing in his fight with Jared Anderson, is the best version of him. So realistically, when you boil it down, we didn't even need to watch that because we don't know. Bakole was not 100% ready for the fight. That's very apparent to me, right? So you can't say it's the best versus the best. Another reason why it's kind of dumb, because I don't even know if Joseph Parker would beat Martin Bakole if they both had the proper and same amount of time to train. But now there's no way for me to prove it unless they do a rematch, but he just knocked him out in 2 rounds. So there's not really a need for a rematch. You see what I'm saying? So I just have to live with the speculation of how Bakole would have done with the full camp. Do you see how problematic this is? Because Turkey decided to fly this man in last minute and padlock in. The money's cool, but how much money would Bakole have gotten if he beat Efe Ajagba, became the IBF, interim champion, then he would be promised, as long as he kept that positioning and belt and didn't break IBF rules, he would be promised a title shot. So even if Usyk and let's say Dubois fought, Martin Bakole would be in line for the winner, because, okay, let them fight. They're the bigger names. That's sometimes how boxing works. And then Bakole would be right there like, yo, the winner of this fight got to see me. But now it's all screwy because you brought him in and he didn't even have proper time. I told you this was such a rookie mistake. This is why you don't do these like crazy last minute saves, because they're not saves. They really take a fighter's career and path and trajectory and mess it up. Gervonta Davis, like just think of bigger stars, like star names. Gervonta Davis, Canelo, Anthony Joshua. None of these guys would fight some dangerous guy with 1 day notice, right? And this is where the fighters need to smarten up. No one is doing that. No one with the name and the brand and the reputation and, you know, I'm the breadwinner of my family is going to do that. You have to find people like Bakole who are just like good fighters but obscure names, right? Because I guarantee you, Canelo especially ain't doing that. Canelo's not going to come fight David Benavidez or David Morrell with no camp. He won't even fight him with a full camp and choose them. So we know Canelo ain't fighting them with zero camp, because he won't fight Benavidez or Morrell as is with a 12-week camp. So this is just such a bad move, man. And I tried to warn you guys, and you guys said, "Oh, Ego, you're not thinking straight." Am I thinking straight now? Because Bakole, it's over. That title run, now you don't know when these things are going to happen. All for what? Money. But I'm a hustler. I told you at the beginning of this video, I'm a hustler. So the way I think is like, when you think of money, think of it like this, right? If somebody said, I will give you $1 a day for a month, and there's 31 days in that particular month, or I'll give you $25 one time throughout the month, anytime you choose, some people are dumb enough to pick the $25 because it's a higher number and they just see a number. They're like, yeah, I'd rather have a lump sum of $25 as opposed to $1 a day, because after 7 days, you only have $7. So it don't look like nothing. So you're like, yeah, the 25 is much better. But if there's 31 days in a month and you do it the long way, pause, you will have $31. So you'll have more money at the end of the month taking the $1 a day as opposed to the one-time sum of $25. But some people don't think in these terms. They think short-sighted, and they think of like the here and now. And that's what it is. Like for Padley, to me, it still messed up his motion because he had just beaten Chamberlain, but he didn't have an IBF eliminator or something that was like waiting for him in a couple months. So I'm not even as mad with Padley. He was an electrician, so he's not like a huge name. So maybe that situation would have made a little bit more sense, even though he got cooked by Shakur too. But Bakole, you had things on the up and up, and you had an eliminator that was a winnable fight with the full camp that you could have and should have taken, but you decide, oh, Turkey's my friend, so I want to save his event. And now you saved his event, and now your career is hung in the balance because you couldn't pull off this fairy tale. That's pretty much how it's going to happen. You could have a top fighter, give them a 1 day camp, and then have someone training as hard as they can that's good, you know what I mean, for 12 weeks. It's unfair. So it's not the best versus the best. And I liken it to, it's like one of those movies that involve the concept of time traveling, like Back to the Future. What Turkey is doing, it reminds me of that. It reminds me of those time traveling movies and time bending movies, right? Like, let's say Back to the Future, Marty McFly. Marty McFly is coming from the future to the past, so no one recognizes him. if he interjects in certain things like his parents, he could create a ripple in the pond to the point where you distracted your mom. So that one little motion distracted her, so she never met your dad. So in turn, you were never born. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's always been an interesting concept to me in those time travel movies. They always tell you, don't mess with anything, don't touch anything. Because if you touch one little thing, then it could alter the whole future because you created that ripple in the pond. And now this course of events or chain of events changes. Like the Flash talked about this. Have you seen the new Flash movie? Right? He kept trying to save his mom and he kept trying to redo it and redo it and redo it. And you're trying to create the outcome that you want, but messing with time and the natural order of things becomes problematic. It's no different than taking an animal out of their habitat. Like if an animal does good in the desert and you're like, nah, I feel bad for the animal. Let me take him to West Palm Beach, Florida. It might die out there because it needs certain things, or it has all of its like armor or all of its like, it's just accustomed to being in the desert. So it knows how to survive in the desert. It don't know how to survive somewhere tropical or somewhere hot like Texas with different resources. Does that make sense? So the reason I'm saying it with Turkey is like the time travel movies is because you created a ripple in the pond. You said, oh, Bakole, I didn't have a plan for my fight, anybody falling out. So I'm going to call a bunch of people. And one of the people was calling Bakole and try to get him in there. And then you got him in there. But now you changed his path because he just got dropped by the IBF eliminator. So, yeah, of course, the Saudis could be like, oh, we feel bad for him. We're going to put him on a card in May, which Turkey said it would do. Right? And you could overpay him again. But what does that do? Now he got overpaid for 2 performances. It don't change the fact that he's not on path to have a title shot anytime soon now. And it doesn't change the fact that his aura has been compromised in terms of we looked at him as the boogeyman after the Jared Anderson fight. And that's been stripped away. So even if you like overpay him for his next fight, whoever he fights, if it's somebody dangerous in the heavyweight division, they probably are going to look at him as beatable because we just watched Joseph Parker beat him. So that's why I'm not a fan of all this shifting and shuffling. You put him in there. He didn't have a fighting chance. He was overweight. You know what I mean? And he tried to save the day. So I'm not even mad at that aspect. But I think it's rather messed up. Like for me, if I fail, I want to fail because of me. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to fail like in some weird stuff like this. That's how I feel about it. Like let's say you're an Olympic swimmer, right? You're an Olympic swimmer, and the Olympics, the Olympics tryouts or whatever is on Friday, and then your friend says, hey, I'm about to get in a fight with this dude. I need you to come and back me up. And then the fight gets out of hand and y'all both get locked up. And now you missed the Olympic trials because you went to help a friend. But by helping a friend that was into some gangbanging stuff, you end up getting locked up. And then now because you're locked up and you can't get out, then you missed the Olympics. So now you can't like finish out your vision. I would be sick with myself, bro. I would be sick. Like, so I'm not anti-helping people, but I'm not helping you at the expense of my dreams being compromised. Like if I'm an Olympic swimmer and my friend's like, hey, help me with this hood rat stuff. Help me with this, cover me for this fight. And then this fight gets out of hand and people like get hospitalized and they arrest you. And then now I can't go to the Olympics. Because of you? Nah, I'm not doing that, bro. So it's cool. Bakole's a good guy. He tried to help Turkey, but you helped Turkey and then you ended up on your back and now you lost your positioning. All for what? For money, Joseph Parker, we get respect for him. He get the glow up because it's like, man, Joseph Parker took on a dangerous guy last minute, and you see what he did to him. So he gets to move on. That's why it almost seemed like a setup. Like, for real, it almost like they wanted Joseph Parker to win. You know what I mean? It's almost like they wanted Joseph Parker to win, because if you didn't want him to win, he definitely carried a major advantage, being in shape, being a career high 267, being a good fighter, and then you bring someone else off the couch and like, hey, get here at 2 a.m. the day of the fight. This was just like, again, this is not a video game. This was bound to blow up in their face, and that is exactly what happened. And that's why I'm making these videos, bro, because I take all the heat up front, all the heat. People are like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, ego. Cool. I don't know what I'm talking about. But then it happens, and you got no choice but to give me my credit as the best in the business, and it's not even close.